wanderer, a life adventurer, said he's a secret philosopher. He's a wandering wanderer.
Hello there once again, fellow peregrinos. Welcome to episode 27 of El Camino de Santiago Pilgrims podcast, where we talk about planning, preparation and packing for walking the road to Santiago, as well as tips, tricks and hacks to make your journey along the way a lot more enjoyable. We want to take the grim out of the pilgrimage, put more bounce in your boots, more K's in your days. To that end, this week we are speaking to a Camino guide, a journalist and a speaker. Pascal Auger has walked the Camino Frances and is here for your entertainment value this week. Pascal, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me.
It's an absolute honor to have your expertise and your time for this episode, Pascal. So we're going to start, as we always do, by asking you to tell your shellmates when and where you first made the decision to walk the Camino de Santiago and why.
Well, actually, that's a pretty hard question because it's not the kind of thing that you just decide one day. It really grows on you for many different reasons. I had heard of the Camino for quite some time, but wasn't available to go for different reasons. But I've wanted to go, and then at some point where you finally say, okay, enough is enough, and I want to go, and sort of I need to go because I want to go have a break. I want to go off and just take some time off and just think out a few things. So many things happens in our lives, different events, change of work, change of life sometimes, separations and stuff. And so you just need some sort of a break. And that's sort of how I decided that I needed to go off and take care of myself. So
what was the catalyst that made you come to that decision?
Well, actually, that's a pretty good question. I live in Quebec, Canada, and I had gone out western in the country to work for a couple of years. And this country is so big that was like about 6,000 kilometers away, and that's still in the same country. And I was heading back home to Quebec, and I figured that was really the good time, it was sort of a reboot, or starting over. And so I figured, that's a good time to let go of things of the past and then start something new. And that was a good decision to go off there.
Brilliant. That's actually a really nice way of putting it. And you've echoed sentiments that I often have said on previous episodes of the podcast, that going on the Camino is a little bit like going on a reboot. It's a little bit like when you restore your computer and your phone to factory settings, and then after it's been rebooted, everything seems new and works fast and efficiently again. So that's what the Camino definitely does for me. So you made the decision to walk it. You chose the Camino Frances, and you started in Saint-Jean. Do you want to do the correct pronunciation rather than my terrible English one?
Well, with my accent, it would be Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, but I mean, yours works too.
All the ladies listening just melted when they heard your accent, Pascal. Mine just sounds awful next to yours. Now, did you have to do any training to get into shape for walking 500 miles across Spain?
Why do any training? I mean, that's what I thought. I was, and I still am somebody, that does a few sports, a little bit more maybe back then. I'm somebody that's been jogging for years, like maybe 5 kilometers every other day, like 3 times a week. I play hockey up here, play soccer, etc. So I figured, I think I'm in pretty good shape and I'll be okay. But then I had a surprise because, of course, when you start in Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, you start with the mountains, and so that was a wake-up call right there. So it took me like about a week to figure out things with my body, but still I was still in good shape, so it wasn't that bad. But as I give conferences and stuff, I do give tricks to people, to get prepared, because it's really different. Even though you do sports, even though you're in good shape, walking 20 to 25 kilometers every day is very different than whatever exercise you do in a day.
So what tips do you give through those conferences?
Well, actually, I just tell people to, it's very, very basic. but you just have to do it. What I tell people is according to the World Health Organization, you should be walking every day 10,000 steps, which is about 7 kilometers every day. So if you're not doing that every day regularly, well, right there, you've got a problem. So you have to at least make sure, 4 weeks before you head off, that you're doing your 7 kilometers every day. And then 3 weeks before, I tell people, bring that up to 10 kilometers. And then 2 weeks before, at least 3 times in the week, do a 15-kilometer walk. And then like a week before, bring that up to 20 kilometers 3 times in the week. So when you get there, well, your body's already accustomed and you're ready to walk.
Great advice. Really, really good advice. So just slowly and gradually start to build it up from 7 kilometers those 3 weeks before to 20 kilometers 3 times a week the week before you leave. What about that climb into into the Pyrenees from Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port? Are there any tips or any advice you would give for people that have never ever done anything like that and they're about to scale what is actually higher than the biggest peak in the whole of England and Wales?
Well,
which doesn't say a lot because it's not a very peaky or mountainous country, but
right, but still,
but still, for us, it's like, whoa, it's bigger than Ben Nevis. That must be a monster.
It's a beautiful climb. What I would tell people is that if you leave Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port to go to the next community, the next village, which is the first one in Spain, Roncevaux, we call, that's about a 28-kilometer walk, and it's basically 20 kilometers to climb and then 8 to come down. So that's a pretty big day when that's your first day. So there's a few tricks. You can either start a few days before that, not start in Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, start a few days before, so you're already starting to climb a little bit mountains before you get to the big one, and so you're really getting your body in shape. But then if you do start in Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, don't do as I did, which is I started early, 8 o'clock, I guess, in the morning, and I was, of course, it was my first day, very excited. I was doing my dream, walking the Camino. I climbed up, and then I made it all the way to the other side. What you can do is there's a last area where you can stop about 8 kilometers after you've started in Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port. There's a last resort there where you can spend the night. So you actually, you start like at mid-afternoon, maybe at noon or 1, you start walking gently. And then when you get to that last resort, stay there. You've only walked 8 kilometers, but still, it's a good 8 kilometers. And so the next day, you only have 20 kilometers. That might sound weird, only 20 kilometers. But for a first day in the mountains, that's another trick that you can do to help yourself. And I really encourage people to do that more and more when I do the conferences.
Yeah, and that place is called Horizon, isn't it? And
exactly.
We've put some links to that on our Facebook page before. That's the albergue at Horizon, and only 8 kilometers up. So when you finish for the day, you've only got 20 kilometers to actually get to the next stage in Roncesvalles instead of a 28-kilometer up or 20 kilometers up and then 8 kilometers down, which you say can be a very testing first day.
Right.
And we touched a little bit on staying in albergues. This is a really big transition for people who have never done the Camino before, going from your lovely comfy bed in a silent room that smells of your incense burning and your background music playing, to being in a big hall on a squeaky bunk bed where the springs are digging in your back and potentially the bed's pushed so close to you that you're nearly spooning with the person next to you. How would you tell people to be albergue ready if they are going to stay in the hostels along the way?
You just got to be open-minded. I mean, that's part of the experience, and it's sort of part of the pleasure. I mean, yeah, there can be some moments where you're like, could you all please be quiet? But I mean, it's part of it's what it is. So you just have to make the best of it. And after a few days also that you've been walking this new adventure, every day after walking 20, 25 kilometers, you're pretty tired, and usually you're going to fall asleep pretty fast. But it does take some adapting. I mean, you can get your earplugs, of course. You can have your headphones to listen to some music or something on your cell. But that's part of the deal. But then again, try to find a an albergue that is maybe sometimes smaller, so you have a little less people in there, and but it's just part of the adventure.
Yeah, great tip that actually. I remember I was passing through Puente La Reina, which had 300 odd beds in that one, and there was another place about 8 kilometers on called Thirauki, and myself and some Austrian guys that I walk in with, we decided to go to the albergue in Thirauki, which only had 22 or something beds like that, and we had a really, really peaceful night as opposed to the 300. So that's a really good tip. Thanks, Pascal.
Here's one last tip on that.
Yeah, go for it.
Most of the time, you'll see people that'll be walking about the same lengths, and you can figure out that the mass will be ending up at a certain village.
Exactly.
What you do sometimes is just go to the next village that might be 2, 3, 4, 5 kilometers further, but knowing that most of the people have stopped just before, that village might basically be empty. That happened to me. I figured that out on my second Camino, and then I started doing that, and then you lose a little bit the pack, and you're really quiet. Like I've been in some albergues where it was like maybe 30% full. And so you really have more space, and you can adapt, and it's more quiet when you do that.
And if you're lucky, you might get some hot water as well. Then, if there's less people, which is always a godsend.
Right.
And we have a lot of listeners in North America. Could you please just share how you made your way to the starting point at Saint Jean?
Well, basically, here in Canada, most of the people that do the Camino are from Quebec. There's some in the rest of the country that will do it, but not that much. What basically I do from Quebec, just go to our international airport in Montreal, and I flew to Bordeaux. From there, I took a train down to Bayonne, and from Bayonne took a local train or bus, but I took a local train. That brought me down to Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, and from our place, it's a night plane. So we leave like around at 11 p.m. And so the first day when you arrive there, it's a long day because you don't sleep all that much in the plane. But it really depends on which path you'll be taking. Like I ended up in Bordeaux because I was walking down to Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port. But then again, if you're doing one of the other paths there, you can stop at Paris or Toulouse or Marseille and places like that.
Yeah, I think one of the common places that most pilgrims pass through if they are on their way to Saint Jean is Bayonne, where you take that local train that kind of lurches, tilts and rattles its way around the verdant valleys, past the waterfalls, and it's a very, very beautiful journey, isn't it?
Yes, it's beautiful. I don't recollect it all that much because I was tired.
Right.
But yes, I mean, I love France. There's many. It's a small country compared to us, but it's so it's beautiful. So yeah.
Everywhere's a small country compared to you guys, apart from
yeah, I guess.
America, China, Russia. We are just like one of it in the UK. We're just like your fingertip kind of thing. But yeah, so vast. It makes us feel so small in comparison. And so that's how most Canadians would make their, or coming from that part of Canada to the starting point.
Yeah, or from Toronto, Montreal or Toronto, the big airports around here, and you would fly directly to France and then take the train down to Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port or wherever you're leaving from, because like your listeners probably know, there's a lot of different places that you can. There's not just one path. A lot of times, I don't know if in your community that happens a lot. A lot of people sometimes say they want to walk the Camino, but it's not just the Camino. There's so many different paths that you can do. So it really depends which one you want to take.
Yeah, I think officially Sarriá is the most common starting point where the pilgrims start to do the minimum possible to get their certificate of completion, the Compostela. But I think after that, and correct me if I'm wrong, from what I remember reading in the stats very recently, was that Saint Jean was actually the most common starting point. But I'll check, don't quote me on that. I will have to look that up. But it is definitely one of the most popular starting points for the Camino Frances, for people who are wanting to do the Camino Frances. Now, you said you trained, or you were already kind of trail fit thanks to the sports that you did, the jogging you were doing every day, the soccer, the hockey. But also on the other side, like you said, nothing can prepare you for walking 20 to 25 kilometers per day for a month, apart from doing that amount per day. And your feet probably wouldn't have been used to doing that amount of exercise and that test of endurance. How were your feet bearing up on the first day? And can you give any foot care tips?
Well, I'm probably going to disappoint a lot of people that would like to hear me say really terrible and awful things, but my feet were in perfect shape. I took good care of my feet, and I had done
What was the secret?
Well, I prepared. I had done a lot of research, a lot of reading. I see a lot of people sometimes just take off without really getting prepared, and that's how you get a lot of problems. But basic stuff. I guess it's basic for me because I give workshops and conferences to people. But basic stuff like, first of all, having the right pair of shoes to walk, and always having half a size to maybe a full size extra to have some more space in your shoes, because when you're going to be walking 20 to 25 kilometers every day, well, your feet, they're going to be getting bigger, so you need some good some space in there. Having the right pair of socks also. Now, I'm not sure of the accent or how you call it, but the merino wool socks are fantastic for that. They're very important, and also something that really helps for the feet is walking with your how do you call them, sticks? How do you call them in English?
Walking poles.
Yeah, poles, right. So because that will take some pressure off your feet also. So those are basic I guess ideas. Having the right shoes and the right socks will help you a lot.
So just to run over that excellent advice, thanks Pascal. Half a size to a full size extra, because your feet will be expanding with the heat. Merino wool socks are the socks that you recommend as well. And obviously the walking poles, because they take some of the force out of your feet and your joints, your hips, your knees, and puts it more into your arms and your upper body.
And I'd add to that the right sized backpack. I mean, if it's too big, you're just going to kill yourself, because you're putting way too much weight on your body and on your feet. So that is very, very important. I see a lot of people that leave with backpacks that are really too big. And the problem is, anyway, around us here, this kind of walking, like they're used to trekking in the woods and stuff. So when you go to these stores, they're going to prepare you for the wilderness. But this is not what we do. We're doing something really different, where we're not sleeping in the woods every night. So we don't need all that equipment. We don't need a big size bag. So it's really important to have the right size bag, so the right weight on your back.
What would you recommend that size bag be?
Well, I'm pretty sure this is international, so we go from what I recommend is 30 to 33 liters, and no more than 6 kilos in your bag.
Fantastic. Now, a figure that's been banded around on different hiking websites that I've seen, and something that I've experimented with myself, was 10% of your ideal body weight. What's your opinion on that?
Let's forget that. Now, that means that if you weigh 100 pounds, or 100 pounds, you'll be putting 10%, which is like 10 pounds on your back. And if you weigh 300 pounds, you're going to bring 30. So imagine if you add those 30 pounds to your weight, how that's going to end up on your knees, on your ankles, on your feet. That is it's a common thing that we've done many before, but we can't do that anymore. We really have to, we don't need more than 6 kilos on our back. When you're well equipped, you have the right clothes, you have the right socks, you have the right equipment, you don't need more than 6 kilos. Now, I'll just add on there, 6 kilos is without, to that, you'll add a little bit of food and some water. So you'll end up with about 8, but it really depends on how much water and how much food you're bringing with you. But if you think equipment, 6 kilos is the maximum, which would, I guess, I don't know if if you guys work in metric or so, but that would end up like being about, because I'm switching right now from kilos to pounds, but that would end up like about 6 kilos, about 14 pounds.
Okay, fantastic. And I can definitely agree with that. I went back to the Camino Portuguese last month, and I kind of experimented with the 10% of ideal body weight, because I weigh about 78 kilograms. I'm 6'1", so it's about 185 meters, 1 meter 85. And so my backpack without water and food was just over 6.
Perfect.
And with food and water, it was about 7.5.
Right.
So and I was extremely comfortable, the most comfortable I've been on any of my Caminos. And it's a really good point you make as well. You know, it's not the Appalachian Trail, it's not the Pacific Coast Trail. There's places to stay along the way.
Yeah,
we don't have to take cooking equipment with us. We can really minimize what we carry with us, as long as we're comfortable with carrying that amount of things, that minimum amount of things. So there you hear it, fellow Peregrino showmates. Pascal says the 10% of your body weight probably isn't going to work if you are a big unit. So let's shoot for the 6 to 8 kilos, and we'll definitely be having a good time that way. That's excellent advice. And the right backpack, like you said, was 30 to 33 liters, and you should easily fit your 6 kilos in there. So talking of backpacks and some things that we're going to take with us, what would be the 3 most important things on your kit list?
Well, that's part of it. First of all, the right. I think I've given them right there. I mean, the bag, the shoes, and the socks. I mean, to that we can add the poles if I mentioned 4. But I mean, those 3 are the most important: the bag, the shoes, and the socks. And after that, the rest of the equipment, or the rest of your clothes, well, we can always adapt. Now, there's some things that you should not bring, but I mean, those for me are the 3 most important.
Okay, so it's getting the shoes right, getting the backpack right, and getting the walking poles with you to take the force out. Those will be your 3 most important. So maybe that'll be if you're a first time pilgrim, maybe that's the best place to start, and that will actually make the rest of your Camino so much easier. That will do all the work for you by the sounds of it.
Yeah, that's perfect for me. Those are the things that are most important.
Great stuff. And what would you say was your favorite town, city, or village along the way, and somewhere you'd recommend potentially people stay for a day extra or make sure they stop and visit?
That's such a hard question, because that's sort of asking me which one is my favorite of my children. You know, there's so many beautiful places, but luckily I only have one child, so that's an easy one. But I don't know, for some reason, there's the village of, now I'm not sure we'll have the same pronunciation here, but Castro Erez. That for me, for some reason, spoke to me a lot. I really had a lot of, I just stayed there one night. I kept on going, but I have beautiful pictures of that, and something, I don't know, maybe a little kicker extra there, magical happened there. I really love that village.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Is there a castle there?
Exactly. Well, there was. They were when I was. Yeah, exactly. They were working on the ruins the last time I was there. But yeah, and it's on the top of a hill. So that's what makes it beautiful. You know, you go back a few hundred years, and you just imagine that castle being on top of the hill, and the village being at the bottom. It's really really beautiful.
Was it in kind of standing sentinel over the countryside on a green hill? I'm trying to visualize it myself.
That part I don't totally remember, but okay. Yeah.
Right, so Castro Erez is definitely a place that you'd recommend your fellow pilgrims check out as a potential place to stay.
Yeah, exactly.
Brilliant, fantastic. Now, Pascal, I'm going to run through a few quick fire questions, and if you could give as short an answer as possible, that would be magic, and we'll fly through these in a matter of, let's say, 30 seconds. No, I'm only joking. Right. It can be as long as you want, but we're just trying to get as much of your Camino knowledge as possible. So what would be your favorite Camino blog, vlog, or book? One you'd recommend?
Actually mine.
Yeah, please do plug it.
On Quebec Compostelle, quebeccompostelle.com. I have my own blog, and I actually do a lot of what we're doing right now, interviews and stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of resources there. It's all in French, but a lot of resources there.
I will put a link to that on our Facebook page as well, Camino de Santiago Pilgrims Podcast, so our listeners can follow you there. What's your favorite food and or drink on the Camino?
Okay, food for breakfast, the tortilla de patata, and drink. I mean, a good Camino beer is always fantastic.
A particular thing you can one beer you can recommend?
Well, I like the half and half cerveza limón, which is a beer and oh my gosh, what is it? It's yellow. It's the fruit that's yellow. Lemon, right?
Brilliant. I bet you were thinking of the word in French there, weren't you?
No.
Well, one thing you didn't need and wouldn't take again.
Oh, I had this line to put my clothes on, and I had bought that in some store that told me I would need that. I never needed that. So I never bring that with me anymore. It's just useless.
One thing you wished you'd packed.
You know what? I didn't miss anything. I had everything I needed. It was just perfect.
One place you wish you'd stayed over?
Gosh, one is hard, but I remember Ponferrada. They have a beautiful, beautiful castle there, but I decided to go on, and every time I see that picture, I say, oh gosh, it's beautiful. I should have stayed there, but maybe next time.
That castle, I believe, was made by the Knights Templars as well.
Oh, well, see, I don't know that story yet.
So the Knights Templars castle in Ponferrada. And an important word or phrase to learn in Spanish.
Well, I guess it goes with when you talk to me about food. I mean, cerveza, por favor.
You got your priorities definitely straightened out there.
Actually, no, it'd be grande cerveza, por favor.
Grande, okay.
Right.
And I personally recommend the Estrella Damm. That's my favourite Spanish beer, and it's quite a commercial one actually, but Estrella Damm is lovely. Now, a common question I see come up, and we can kind of delve into a bit more detail in this one, would be how people are going to manage their money while they are on the Camino. How much cash did they take? How much on card? Any money tips you can give?
Oh, well, basically you can use debit machines and credit cards. They're all over the place. Just the albergues where you have to pay cash. So basically you don't need to bring a lot. I usually carry about 100 euros, and I could probably go for a week with that. And then, when there's like 20 left, I'll just go retrieve some more. So 100 euros is fine, and use your credit cards.
So yeah, most of the albergues, especially the more basic ones, which are the municipal, those ones, they normally only accept cash. So it's important to have some cash with you. And one thing that I was contacted by a lady recently asking me that question. That's why I've put this in. And one idea I had was to have a card always, but only with like a prepaid debit card. So you load it up with, say 200 euros. Yeah. And so that way, if something, God forbid, did get stolen, you'd only be losing a small amount of money. And obviously you can cancel cards at any time, I know that, and you have someone trustworthy at home that you can contact and can load that up every now and again. And I've done that when I've been to music festivals, never on the Camino, because I'm quite trusting of people on the Camino. But I think next Camino I go on, I will probably do that. So
that's a good idea.
Just load up a prepaid card and go from there. So tell us, if you have one, a funny, inspiring, or quirky Camino experience or story, because these stories and these characters on the Camino are, for me, what give the Camino its magic. We can all go on a long walk, but it's the characters and your fellow pilgrims and their own personal journeys that they are on that enrich your experience. Do you have any?
Gosh, there's so many that we could share. The one that pops up right now, because we just talked about cash and that kind of thing, it wasn't my personal story, but it's someone that I met that I did an interview with, and he told me his story that when he went a few days after arriving, there's some basic things that you must not do, and I'll tell you afterwards, but when, for some reason, I don't know how that happened, probably something that was not on the Camino, because this kind of thing does not happen very, very much. I don't want to scare anyone, but he lost everything. His backpack, his passport, his money, he lost it all. And so, because everything was in his backpack, you should always have some sort of belt. I don't know how you would call them, but having your money and your credit cards and everything, around your belt at all times. But anyway, that being said, he that happened to him. But then he said, you know what? That was one of the best things that happened to me. That's what he said. Why? Because from that point on, he really lived the Camino as what it is. People helping out, giving him a hand, giving him some money. I mean, this was not a poor person. I mean, he was fine, but until he finally got his passport again, everyone on the way was there to help him out. And I thought that was like very inspiring. Just don't try this though, but don't test it. But it's a beautiful story.
I think there was we interviewed a girl from Los Angeles a few episodes ago, Rachel Smith, and she said there is everyone has their own Camino angel, and it sounds like this man found his Camino angels. And there's also the very commonly termed phrase that the Camino provides, and I think that's a good metaphor for life as well, because contrary to some people's belief, I do think life will give you what you need more often than what you want, and it's a lovely story. And I think it really demonstrates the brotherhood and the camaraderie that the Camino de Santiago pilgrims share along the way with that shared goal. And it's for anyone that is not sure about going, just be aware you are going to be in good hands, in your fellow pilgrims, and just the fact that you've made the decision, the big, brave, bold decision.
Exactly. And stop worrying about it. I mean, of course, it's something new, different, sort of scary, but gosh, it's so beautiful, so wonderful. Just stop worrying and just go with the flow.
And you said, Pascal, that you were on a reboot, and that was part of your reason to walk the Camino. For your own personal journey, what were you going from, and where did you go to afterwards? What did the Camino do for you? How did it help you? How did that time on the road help you go on to reboot and go on to the next phase of your life?
Well, it sort of gave me a break because when I did it in a moment where I just needed to sort of get away from things and have a time to think and realize what the priorities were in life. And the funny thing is that, there's a lot of people, you've heard these stories. I mean, people will come back from there and then all of a sudden change everything in their life. Now,
I was one of those people.
Yeah. You were
I was one of those people.
That can be scary if it's not done right. But for me, it was a process. It wasn't, from the moment that I stepped on there and I walked and then I came back, I knew something had happened. And then after I came back, everything grew in me and, things cleared up a little bit. And you sort of, from that point on, concentrate on what I would say are real things in life, things that are really important to you. And then I guess you just let go a little bit more of things that aren't really important. Now, it doesn't make you a perfect person. There's still some things you got to work on. But I guess it just brings you back to basics and what's important in life.
And what basics did that bring you back to? If you don't want to divulge any more details, you don't have to. I'm just curious because it's really interesting. You say if it's not done right, and people that do make big, scary changes. I mean, I loved the Camino so much that I ended up moving to Spain. And, and I closed down my business. I had a business before I did it. And I did it the wrong way. I did it the complete wrong way. How it is such a big change going from walking 20, 30 kilometers per day and your only ambitions, your only goals being to find food, shelter, water and friends, and then having to go back to your day job. which some people don't like. How can you give any advice on how to make that transition successfully?
Oh my gosh, that transition can be so, so difficult. Now, the most important thing is that when you finish your Camino, like I see, like when I give workshops and stuff, it freaks me out. I don't want to discourage people, but give yourself some time. First of all, you should never go walk less than 3 weeks, because it's after 1 week that the magic starts. Your body is going to be ready, and you're going to start yourself. You're going to be more in the present, because the first week you're still thinking about your job, your life, your spouse, and whatever. And then after a week you start clearing up stuff. And so then after that, when you every day, every week is beautiful. And then at a certain point, of course it does stop, and then you gotta come back home, as we say. But it's very important when you come back home to plan an extra week, so you don't get into the fuss and the hustle right away. You just what I tell people usually is just get home, just close the blinds, don't answer the phone, don't answer the door, just give yourself time to get back into society. Because just the fact that when you're going to leave the Camino, either you leave from Finisterre or you leave from Santiago, and then you have to get into a schedule. You have to take a plane. You have to get into an airport. It gets so busy. It's so fast. It's crazy. And then you get back home, and then you get that odd call from the neighbor, your friend, whatever, and ask you, so how was the Camino? And you just you're not there right now. You need to come back gradually. Actually, your body's here, but your head is still on the path. It's still on the way. So you need that time to make the right moves also after that, and not to make any bad decisions. And then gradually, if you do want to change things in your life, that's perfect, because that's part of it. If you really realize that you need to change your job, you need to change your the area where you work and stuff, that's perfect. I've seen a lot of people do that. You just have to do it the right way.
Great advice. And a friend of mine very recently told me a quote. I don't know where he got this from, but he said, "Don't make long-term decisions based on short-term emotions."
Right.
And I know that those emotions that I had when I left the Camino for the first time were so strong, and I ended up making a whole load of decisions which ultimately came back to bite me on the bum. And
there's I don't know elsewhere in the world, but in France there's organizations that after you've done your Camino, you can sort of go there and sort of get you back into your life, so you have a transition that's a little bit softer. I think that sort of thing should be more popular, because exactly like you say, you live so many emotions when you're there, and sometimes you have the right idea, but you just need to come back first.
Yeah, and just before I ask you the last question, it's a really good thing you said about the magic really does start to happen after that first week. And that transformation tends to happen after your body is adjusted, your mind is shaking off the shackles of your previous life, whether it's work or issues playing on your mind, whether it's some relationship issues, whatever it might be. And that magic does start to happen in the second, third and fourth weeks. And I know for a fact, my last Camino, my wife and I did a bit of the Camino Portuguese, and after we did 6 to 7, I can't remember, it was 6 or 7 days, but I just didn't want to go back after that last week. And I got home on the Sunday morning and went to work on the Sunday evening, which was definitely not recommendable. I mean, I did it out of necessity, really, because I've just paid for a wedding and so lots of money to make up from the wedding. But yeah, if you can, then delay that transition back into your everyday life as much as possible. And yeah, that's some great advice. And talking of good advice, what would you say to someone who's maybe 50-50 about walking the Camino? What would you say, or wants to walk it, but they're scared? They're scared of the albergues, maybe they're scared of the exercise, maybe that first day in Saint-Jean. What would you say to convince them to go?
Well, everything that's new, we're always scared. That's the human process, But just to jump in there, and what do they got to lose? I mean, you're asking questions about yourself, and you just need a break. So give yourself that present. I basically tell people, it's the, or maybe one of, or maybe the greatest present that you'll give yourself in your life, because it's when you go do the Camino. hopefully for at least 3 weeks or more, it's one of the only times in your life when you're really going to give yourself freedom. Now, a lot of us live in what we call, we're free in our countries, Of course, we've got laws and stuff, but I mean, are we really free? Every day we have our responsibilities. We have to get up in the morning, we got to go to work, got to take care of the kids, the grandkids, and do errands and blah, 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 and all that stuff. We live about 80 or 85 years in our in this world. And so when in our life were we really free to do basically just three things: walk, eat, and sleep? And that's all we do. Zero responsibilities when we're on the way. So why not, give yourself that present, that freedom? The only time we were able to do that actually was between 0 and 5 years old, because when you basically decide then, but you're not really conscious of what you're doing. And at 5 years old, well, then, you start to get into the process. You go to school, you got schedules, you got to do this, you got to do that. So really, we live 80 to 85 years, and most of the people will have never really tasted what freedom is all about. So the Camino, that's what it gives you. It gives you finally that time to live what freedom is, and then to just put things back in order in your mind, in your life.
So beautifully put. The Camino is the greatest present you can ever give to yourself: freedom. I love it. That should be on a billboard somewhere.
I'll have to copyright that, I guess.
Yeah, definitely, Pascal. Definitely, I'm going to quote you on that for sure. Pascal, just before I let you free to enjoy your own day and hopefully go and do some walking as well, could you please tell the listeners where they can find you online, your blog, your website, and obviously your guides as well?
Well, actually, you can find me on a website that's called, it's in French, of course, and the first word is the province where I live in Canada, which is called Quebec. Now try to Google that. You'll find something. It's QuebecCompostelle.com. So QuebecCompostelle.com, there you'll find a lot of information of what I do, how I help people, the workshops that I give, the conferences, and also if ever some people are interested. Now, we love these experiences, and one of the things that the Camino did to me was realize that, we can live these wonderful experiences, of course, on the Camino, but if we have the mindset, we can live these experiences elsewhere. And so that's why we've created for a couple of years now, and it's just a process, but our own path, our Quebec path, our Quebec way, which is 1,200 kilometers that starts from the airport of Montreal and goes to another part of Quebec. It really crosses Quebec, and so you can actually walk for 2 months, and we've got different areas where people can go eat, sleep, a little bit like the Camino. Of course, we've got a lot of work to do because the Camino is about 2,000 years old, and we're just a few, but it's really made with the same values as the Camino. So if some people would like to live that kind of experience in North America, here in Quebec, Canada, well, that is also possible from now on, and they'll get all the information on the website QuebecCompostelle.com.
Fantastic! I love that idea. Pascal, Auger, all of that stuff is going to be on our Facebook page for the listeners to go and find out more about you. It's been a wonderful interview. Thank you so much. Buen camino, fellow peregrino.
Yeah, thank you very much, and I hope to see you soon here in Quebec to walk our way.
Wanderer, a life adventurer, said he's a secret philosopher. He's a wandering wanderer.